We are back with another episode of Boots, Balls and Bras with myself, Fara Williams, and the amazing Anita Asante. Neat, we have a lot to go through. Less football talk, more incidents that have happened off the pitch. But before we get into it, we always like to know what you've been up to since we last spoke. Anything exciting been happening in your life?
Yeah, and actually it was one of the first weekends I got to just relax and be home. But yeah, during the week I was away, obviously, we mentioned before, with UEFA on the referees conference. And I actually thought it was really interesting. So hopefully, I've got a whole new lens to look through the game. I'll be watching the referees and not really the players.
Don't sit next to me as an analyst talking through the eyes of a referee, because we're going to fall out. Just
I'm going to have cards in my pocket and everything.
Footballers' eyes, ex-players' eyes only, not referees' eyes, because we'll have a little fallout. But you said you've been at home. Gigi, since you started to cook now? No, with Beth?
Well, yeah, if you could call it that.
Causing
How's that going? A mess and a chaos in the kitchen.
No jollof rice yet?
No jollof rice, yeah. We'll get to that. I mean, I can't even do it. It's going to be making it for me.
It did make me laugh seeing her with their little cucumbers and stuff. But yeah, with cheese and crackers it was, I'm lying. And it was Welsh cheese.
Welsh cheese, of course.
Remind people it wasn't English cheese. I don't know the difference. But
I'm glad you got that in there.
The Welsh cheese. But no, we have to, on a serious note, we'll kick off, because last weekend, Arsenal, or Manchester City against Arsenal, in the WSL, there was an incident after the game. Bunny Shaw, I think it was racially abused. Was it via content that was sent?
Online,
online content, and there's an investigation going on.
Yeah.
They had a reverse fixture in the midweek in the cup. I was going to say Continental Cup. It's now the Subway Cup, guys. So in the Subway Cup, where she took a stand and she didn't travel with the team to play that fixture.
Yeah.
What's your whole kind of thoughts on the incident? I mean, I'm sure, you have an opinion of that.
Of course. I think for me, we always talk about how inclusive women's football is and how we don't tolerate kind of discrimination or any forms of abuse. And I think it was disappointing and a shock to hear that had happened to Bunny. And obviously, the fact that she felt she had to take some time away from her team, from playing, and being available for that fixture, just shows you the impact of those things that, the abuse that players receive or people receive in their lives. And, I don't think we can ever underestimate just how much that can really affect individuals. And, for us, obviously, we don't want to see that in the game at all, to any player. But yeah, I think ultimately, you want to see in those moments solidarity. You want to see players, managers, coaches all come together and also take a stand.
Yeah.
I've talked about this a lot, and I just think it's a lot for one player to shoulder some of that emotional burden as well.
Yeah, no, I was gonna touch on that, because obviously when I tuned into the game midweek, and obviously after hearing what had happened with Bunny and then reading that she didn't travel with the team, I kind of raised my eyebrow a little bit. I was thinking, you talk about solidarity and wanting everybody to do it together and actually having a real impact, making a real stand. For me, it would have been more impactful, more powerful, and more supportive for the whole team to say, we are not playing this fixture. Like, for me, I think that collectively, we talk about being together, the whole team shouldn't have played. They should have just said, I'm not playing this fixture until further investigations are done.
Yeah.
And that would have really made a stand. That would have really had some impact, because I feel... And I don't know how you feel about it. There was also an incident with Millie Bright, some comments in the stand about her not having a good game. I think it was along the lines of, you were rubbish in the first half, after her giving photos out. Now, there's an FA statement, and I have to put it in there, because it said, we are shocked and saddened to hear about the incidents that occurred over the weekend relating to Khadijah Bunny-Shaw and Millie Bright. So they've put both of these incidents into one statement.
Yeah.
Which for me sounds as though the FA are comparing the two. They are completely different incidents, and one deserves or should have more focus on it, real focus on it, than the other.
Yeah.
And I feel like by putting something out like that, it's kind of been brushed under the carpet until further investigations. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I agree with you totally on that. I think they're separate incidences, players' performance being, criticised and, using obviously vitriol is going to be probably more a part of the game as it grows with the audiences, and players are going to have to figure out, I guess, a way to adjust to those or adapt to those interactions with fans. of course, no one should have to receive direct feedback in that manner. But in terms of Bunny Shaw, I think, the significance of it is obviously there's way more weight on that than there is, because targeting somebody's characteristics, their ethnicity, their race, or anything like that is, completely unacceptable. And I think that, like you say, it would have had way more impact if the whole team didn't play, for example, in that game. We've talked about it across not just women's football, men's football, and it not happening enough in that space. But I think it was an opportunity as well to really, kind of lead the way in that within our sport, when we say it is the most inclusive, sport in the country. So we actually could lead the way in changing the behaviors by going like, we're doing this and we're going to see what impact it has fundamentally. But again, I just think, I felt for Bunny. I think in terms of the statement, I almost have to question a little bit, who is privy, who is part of making that statement. Because I think when you have, like I say, multiple or diverse voices, maybe people with those lived experiences, they probably can give a better informed opinion as to, number one, how to go about a statement like that, and number two, actually what it means to society when they read it, and also to the individual player as well. So it's something moving forward, I'm sure they'll probably they'll learn from, but also they'll take the feedback. I think you've seen fans commenting on it, also saying that they feel that the statement shouldn't have been,
separate.
They should have been separate.
If you're going to do them, they
should have been separate. So, we'll see what happens.
It was an interesting one. I mean, as I say, I don't think the two should have been put into the same statement. That's just my opinion of it. But also needs. I mean, there was a lot I read on Twitter around the support of our own teammates in terms of retweeting, kind of, what people are like. Either you retweet it or you repost a picture of the kind of stand with Bunny Shaw. And there was a lot of comments about the lack of support around that, that incident with Bunny Shaw, compared to the Chloe Kelly statement that when she was at the club, and kind of how she felt she was being treated by, whether it be managers, teammates or whatever. There was a lot more support fans felt for the Chloe Kelly kind of treatment, as opposed to the support for Bunny Shaw being racially abused. What did you see? Have you read anything?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of opinions from, obviously fans and supporters, and in relation to that, I'm sure, obviously we want to give our support to Bunny, and I'm sure she's getting supported behind the scenes from her teammates, her club, and her close network. But ultimately, there is a question mark over that kind of visibility of that support compared with perhaps Chloe Kelly's situation. And it just makes you wonder, if Bunny Shaw had attached racism and mental health together, would that then get even more attention, or even more, okay, now actually this is really important, we really have to back her, we have to support her. I've seen some, statements, obviously Viv Miedemar and other players, it's one or two other players have actually, gone out there publicly to condemn that behaviour. But, like I said, again, when you maybe don't have a more diverse pool of people in the game as a whole, let's be honest, maybe they don't have the same kind of understanding or as to the impact of what's happened to her or what she's experiencing, and therefore maybe they don't feel even sort of like confident enough, I think, to go out there and just make statements, but they should do, because I think ultimately we, as part of women's football, always say we condemn any kinds of behaviour like that. Our unique selling point is that we want the atmosphere in the game to be inclusive, to be fun, to be welcoming. And the only way we can do that is when we publicly say, we stand with these players, and we do that. So I think it's disappointing from that point of view. And I think it's fair enough for people to call it out and supporters to call it out as well. I
would agree. I mean, Neat, we'll move on a little bit from that. But before we do, I just wanted to know, when you played, because this was something that I thought about when I was coming in today, is that, did you get racially abused when you played? Because if so, it wasn't something that I was ever aware of.
Yeah.
My teammates that I played with, having received or suffered any sort of racial abuse. Was you a player that received any during your time as a pundit or a player? Or
As a pundit, yes, to personal, DMs or whatever. But as a player, no.
Yeah.
I can't recall a time that racial abuse has been directed to me, especially in this country.
Yeah.
There's been times when I played abroad and we played in other countries where there has been more of that tone or that sentiment, monkey chants.
And did you speak out with your teammates?
My teammates did at the time, but we didn't. I guess we didn't take enough of or we didn't feel that we had the power to, I would say, or felt empowered enough to maybe, walk off the pitch or anything like that. We had the game stopped once or twice. It was during a Champions League game. But the game continued, and I think with these things, like I'm saying, our sport now is so much more visible. It has the airtime. It's across so many different platforms. That's where we can have major impact, because so many eyes are on the game now in terms of the audiences across platforms. So I think it's also about empowering players and teams and club management to actually take the steps to do those things, and it not just be performative. I think Ian Wright put out a statement too to say, he's tired of seeing this happen and just having to put out statements and performative action. And I think if you're someone who's received it as he has been in his career or has watched other players go through it, you kind of feel tired of saying the same stuff.
I know. That's what it. I mean, even for me, it's like, I look at it, looking in on it, and I'm like, when is somebody actually going to do something that is empowering, that is going to make a real statement, that is going to make, the authorities look at what is going on and how they actually manage, these sorts of behaviours, because we do the same thing by putting out a statement and we're getting the same results, right? It's happening week after week. So actually we're getting no change with that.
Yeah.
You go back to Kick It Out and all of the kind of T-shirts that you used to wear, kick race, but nothing has improved since those type of stands have been made.
Yeah.
So at what point are they going to think, let's make a real stand? And in my opinion, a real stand is forfeiting games, walking off the pitch or whatever it might be collectively until something is done.
And obviously criminal charges, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
To those that dish out abuse or racism or any of those things. I think criminal charges hopefully will have an impact. But yeah, I think you want governing bodies, people and authorities that govern the game to have some really strong, hard guidelines and say, this is totally permissible in these situations and scenarios that players forfeit games or teams, clubs forfeit games. And hopefully that will have the impact that we want to see in the future. But it has to happen. And we're waiting for that, for when that will happen.
Well, maybe if they start to make these boards a little bit more diverse, then they might see it from another lens, right? But we'll wait to see that. But another incident. And this was live on TalkSport. I don't know if anybody listens to TalkSport. I actually do. I quite like their breakfast show. But TalkSport, we know Shaban read out a statement from Manchester United, Mission 21 statement. And it was basically discussing the plans of Manchester United as a club, which includes their women's team. And she mentioned that their women's team was a part of this strategy. And then Alan Brazil sparks outrage. Alan Brazil said, Manchester United fans around the world are not bothered about the success of the women's team and are solely focused on the men's team. Basically saying that nobody's interested, along the lines of nobody's interested in women's football. Real Man United fans only want to see the men win trophies, i.e. the Premier League and the Champions League. Did you see the little snippet that was out on Twitter or Instagram?
I did see the snippet.
You're laughing. What was your thoughts? I mean, I like the fact she called him a dinosaur. That quite made me laugh. It's like,
I felt, I felt that Shaban held her own, which was great, and I felt that she's always gonna she called him out. The Scottish can help it. She called him out. She challenged him, which was really important to do. I feel that Alan Brazil, I've enjoyed listening to him, across TalkSport and across many things, and he's well respected. He has a voice that has the impact, and I think he needs to probably just recognize the power of his words, because it wasn't just about, I don't think Man United fans or most football fans will disagree with the fact that, men's football, the men's senior team are the priority from a fiscal point of view, from a returning to the top, top of the Premier League and winning things again. Absolutely. I don't think anyone would deny that. But, both things can exist at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think Shaban was just really trying to highlight for not only the audience that is interested in women's football. By the way, the women's team are part of Man United's plans for the future. They want them to be successful. That's great. It shows that they're invested. They want them to progress. And also just that, you're educating football fans along the way as well, who are maybe not as widely across the women's game, to understand actually this is what your club are doing. This is how they're moving forward. This is, you can either be interested or not. That's fine. But this is what's happening. So I felt that it was a fair discussion. Well, it was a good discussion to have, but I didn't personally like his dismissive tone. I didn't like that he tried to talk over her. I didn't like that it was a bit childish when he was like, no, that type of thing. And I could see why she would have been frustrated, with regards to that.
I mean, as you said, she was just reading out the plans of the club. The women are, whether you like it or not, Man United fans, they are a part of the club. They come under your umbrella, like the 21s, like the academy, boys, girls, etc. I think you're right, Nate. I think a point in reading it out and highlighting the fact that, this is the kind of plans for the game. And also, holding their own against Alan Brazil. And as you said, I don't think his comments were wrong. It was the tone, the manner, the disrespect in the way that he delivered them. And probably something that didn't need to be aired the way that it was aired. Maybe that's an opinion that as a professional and, as you say, a well-respected presenter, as Alan Brazil is, that it could have been something that he maybe said to Shaban off air. Actually, come on, Shaban, let's be serious. Man United fans don't really care about the women's team, as opposed to actually doing it live on air and making a bigger scene than needed to be made. Because,
but also, if I felt that if that is, he had such a strong opinion about that.
I mean, you mentioned his granddaughter playing.
Yeah, but he had such a strong opinion about that. Back yourself and say, I don't think.
Yeah, as
not
opposed to
Man United fans.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you cannot say universally that you know that for a fact, verbatim. Yeah. That was my big issue with it, with his statement. Back yourself. You think that? I don't think blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, as a mum to a young daughter, I do think that, if that's his opinion, fair enough. But he's got to recognize that, like, women and girls have always felt undervalued in a lot of spaces, not just sports. Okay, in the workforce, we're changing as a world, as a society. We're trying to say women can do this, they can do that. We want them to have equality and all these things. Well, it's important that young girls feel that they have a future.
Yeah, for sure.
In the game or in otherwise. So, that little bit, and Shaban pointed out that, his granddaughter plays football. If she was listening, how would she feel?
Yeah.
Hearing him say that.
Well, his comments to that, wasn't it? Well, I go and watch her. Yeah. so that makes it all okay, Alan. But I mean, it was something that probably was unnecessary, didn't really need to be said. As you said, if you've got that opinion, then kind of own it and we move. But yeah, on a positive note, it was the Women's Adobe FA Cup, a cup that in this country, is super special to so many people, kids growing up, certainly me on my estate. I don't know if you played it. You play knockouts. Wembley knockouts to get to the final. I mean, I had some bad memories when I was young. Being a Chelsea supporter, my first memory was actually going to Wembley, was against Man United. We lost 4-0. David Ellery at the time, the referee, gave 2 penalties. And honest to God, ever since that moment, I didn't like him and I didn't like referees. And maybe that kind of explained my career and my relationship with referees. But the FA Cup has always been a special cup. And obviously the women's games at the weekend, not many surprises. Rugby Borough, they pushed Liverpool, didn't they? They were Liverpool 1-0 up until, I think, the 88th minute. Then they got a 2-0. So that was a really good game. One that I guess Liverpool and Matt Beard probably would have prepared for, knowing, the FA Cup. Everton went 1-0 up at Chelsea, and I was like, what's going on here? And then Chelsea do what they do best, 4-1 winners in the end. Standard Manchester City beating Leicester, Arsenal beat London City. Man United, they thumped Wolves. There was actually a really nice huddle with the Wolves manager talking about, obviously there was quite a big turnout of that game, and give him a kind of a nice debrief to that. But yeah, I mean, I guess the FA Cup is, as I mentioned, a special cup. Anything special over the weekend apart from Everton going 1-0 up?
Yeah, well, Everton going 1-0 up, I think they was in shock as well. It was a nice goal from the corner. But I think, as you said, all the predictions in terms of those teams were as expected. I think the game that I was sort of really paying attention to was Crystal Palace, Newcastle, actually, because I thought, you've got a team from the Championship that's doing decent, and then, Crystal Palace at the bottom of the WSL. Thought it could be quite tight, and I thought that maybe there'll be an upset, potentially. But it didn't quite happen. Crystal Palace had an exceptional game, won that game as well, 2-0. So, yeah, I think...
no upsets,
but I think we
disappointed.
Credit to Rugby Borough, because obviously they had a great run.
They played on 3G as well, right?
Yeah, insane.
I was looking at it because Liverpool used to play on 3G, so it was an interesting one. I was watching the roll of the ball, and I don't know if that really affected the game.
But yeah, potentially, I think, from what they're used to as well. But I think they've had an amazing run up until this point. They've been winning games like 7-0, 6-0, whatever. So I think for their journey, their story, and I believe a team that had, changed hands from Coventry United as well to become Rugby, I think it's an amazing story for them in terms of their journey as a club. Yeah,
it was good. I want to, we'll talk about our memories, because there wasn't much happening, as I said, no real upsets. But we'll talk about our memories of the FA Cup. Neat, I've got to start with my own, right? Because, I mean, I've had a few, but I was 17, 18, I can't remember. FA Cup, I was playing at Charlton at the time, and we got to the FA Cup against Fulham, who were then full-time professionals. I have to put that in there, because Charlton, we were training twice a week on a Tuesday and Thursday evening, very late. Fulham, under Al Fayed, they were full-time professionals, and we reached the final. And it was that year, I actually got injured. Strangely got a stress fracture in my back, so pretty much missed most of the season. I managed to get back and fit for the squad. So I'm on the bench, which is fine. And we're 2-0 down to Fulham at the time. And I come on as a sub. And like my first tackle, I think it was, I can't remember who it was against, tackled somebody. Should have been a corner, come off me. I poked it out for a corner, got away with it, and they give a goal kick. So I'm like, a bit of luck on my side. First touch goes out for a corner. And because it went out for a goal kick, right? Yeah. It looks as if I haven't had that touch. Yeah, right. So obviously everybody's thinking, Fara hasn't had a touch of the ball now. A couple minutes later, they get a corner. I'm on the edge of the box, the one that stops anything that comes out. Or, if someone wants to run in, potentially pretend that you're tracking that player. Someone, I can't remember who it was, puts the corner in. And I go to clear it with my head. But I clear it the wrong way. And it goes into the back of the net. An own goal. Pass Pauline Cope, by the way. Copey, I'm telling you should have saved that. England's number one at the time. And it was a bullet header just inside the box, right?
So it was a beautiful
So you can imagine
header.
It was quite far out. It wasn't like, 6-yard box header. Right. It was it was between the penalty spot and the edge of the box. Yeah. And as I said, it's come in, and I'm obviously trying to head it, and I don't know, it's hit off my head. Next thing I know, it's in the back of the net. And they're like, Farah scored an own goal with her first touch. And I was like, this FA Cup ain't for me. I went on to lose like 4 FA Cups, like my next 4 FA Cup finals that I'd reached. I'd lost, and I thought, I'm never going to win this cup. Like all of them dreams I had on the estate growing up, I ain't going to win one. I did eventually. I think I won 2 in the end. But yeah, my debut in an FA Cup final was not a good one. An own goal, and we lost 3-0, by the way.
Do you think there
was 2 own goals in that game? I'm gonna put it out there. Karen Hill,
someone else as well.
Yeah, Karen Hill scored the first one. So I have to just put that out there.
Thank you for that.
I don't want to be the only one to be scoring own goals in cup finals.
Do you think because of that experience in your debut for the cup final,
I didn't want to play in another one.
Yeah, no, but did that play on your mind going into the next cup final that you reached, or did you just completely do you mean forget that ever happened and not faze you at all?
It didn't faze. I was too young. I was what I was like as a kid. I was quite a cocky little kid, and it didn't faze me. I even remember after, the chants on the bus, like Casey was trying to say, "Stand up if you scored an own goal," right? And me being cocky, I'm like, "Stand up if you had a good game." So I'm coming straight back at you. And I was 18, as I said, and it was one of those that, I didn't think anything. Literally, my 3rd FA Cup final that I'd lost, I was like, mate, this cup is not for me. I'm never going to win it. Yeah. I started to then believe that I'm never going to win the FA Cup. Okay. And the first FA Cup I did win was actually a funny one, the road to the FA Cup final. We beat Arsenal in the FA Cup final in extra time, and it was Tash Dowie that scored the winner. But literally, in the build-up to that cup final, we'd played Arsenal a few weeks before in a league game at Marine. Yeah. And I remember what's her name? Jane Ludlow fouled me. So obviously I'm on the floor, and I tried to kick out at her a little bit, and you don't kick out at Jane Ludlow. I'm looking at, so I'm on the floor, I've kicked up at her. She's then tried to choke me, and I'm holding her hand, but also trying to point to the referee to be like, look what she's doing. She got sent off, and she missed the cup final. to this day, I don't even think she's ever forgiven me. She's never spoken to me. I think she absolutely hates me. But yeah, she got sent off and missed the cup final, which obviously was an advantage for us.
Yeah, massive.
Because you know how impactful she was. So yeah, I kind of had like, the FA Cups were like very dramatic for me. What about yours? Because you won a few.
Yeah, I mean, not as dramatic as yours.
Yours was plain sailing, just battled everyone all the way to the final.
No, but I think the first memory I have of the FA Cup final was 2004. I made my debut against Charlton. We went on to win that game 3-1. But I just remember like, I think it was the first 5-10 minutes of the game and the ball, you know, we're building out from the back and I do this like Cruyff turn on.
Not Carmine. Like you to Cruyff in the edge of the box.
I think it was Carmine Walker. Or to see her charging towards me. And, you know, she was like a big player, like tall, like intimidating. And I was just like, nah, this is like playing in the ball courts. No worries, got this, you know. But I think when you're young, like you said, you just have this like extra kind of confidence. And I knew like, you know, this is my first cup final. Like I want to play well. I want to show Vic that I can like perform at this level in this game. And obviously the feeling afterwards was just like electric. You know, we played at Loftus Road and I just like, my family were there. Everyone was there.
I was in that game. I played left wing or something, which I'm trying to remember. We lost. Yeah. You lot played. I think that you lot played wing backs. I remember Claire Wheatley was playing left wing back.
Yeah, I think
you lot played a 5-3-5. Yeah, you lot were playing wing backs because we didn't set up for wing backs. And I think at the time I was playing on the wing, right wing against Claire Wheatley. And
I bet you loved it, huh?
I hated it. You know, I don't like running. Is that your debut? Is that your debut?
Yeah, that was the debut in the cup final, 2004.
I think I lost the year before.
Oh, really?
That was the one I lost the
one before the own goal.
The one that scored the own goal.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow. Well, okay, you lot battered us that day.
I think, you know, you just have that feeling and things just click and everything, like people touch just, you know, I think Julie Fleeting just had an exceptional game as well. And it was incredible. And then I guess the other memorable one was 2007 when we did quadruple that season, because it was just like, you win a cup or who did you win the league.
Beat in the final that year? Do you remember?
Charlton again, 4-1.
I weren't there then.
Was it the City ground or the Den? I got to double check.
I'm not there.
You're not there. I
moved on.
You moved on from there. Fair enough. And that was in Nottingham and at the City ground. And I think televised.
Wasn't that a record?
Record
25,000. 25,000.
It was on BBC One. And I think Jane Ludlow scored this absolute worldie from like 30 yards out. You know, it was incredible. I think Kelly Smith scored as well, like a really lovely goal. I don't know what it was with us and Charlton. Like we had a strong rivalry. It could, you know, it was a bit edgy. There was tackles flying in. You know, words exchanged.
I'm surprised. What's her name? Was it Gigi? What's the Irish girl that used to play at Charlton? She was at Arsenal. Gigi.
That was
mid. That's how I remember Gigi. I can't remember her actual name.
And actually, they scored first. Annie scored a goal in like early first couple minutes or whatever. And I think I remember just looking over the bench and Vic just looking like he was not happy, you know?
I can imagine.
And it was just like everyone was like, all right, we need to like show up now, come on, you know. But always with that team, it was always so special, you know. And I think that one of the biggest lessons I always learned from playing with that team, with the likes of Jane Ludlow, Kelly, Emma Byrne, you know, some of those senior heads, Kirsty Peeling, is just that people could roar at you, tell you like, do your job, you know, all of that, but you never took offense. You was always just like, at the end of it, we will be laughing and smiling. But in it, you just knew it's because everyone just wanted to win and wanted to play well. So we were just such a tight-knit group. And I really grew up under those players. And as you mentioned, Jane Ludlow, you know, like you were on the wrong side of Jane either. But, you know, she was such a force and had so much impact and loads of respect. But, you know, for both of us, like you said, like as a kid, you play Wembley, FA Cup was the dream. It was the fairy tale. So I've even played in one, for me was just like unbelievable.
How many did you win in the end? 5?
4 FA Cups, yeah,
I'd lost 4. No, but you know what, you talk about that and the dream wasn't it? Like, I know we always talked about Wembley and getting to Wembley, and you know what? I have to say, I was lucky. I did win the FA Cup at Wembley.
Yeah.
It was with Arsenal. I think that's the only disappointing thing as a Chelsea fan. We actually beat Arsenal 1-0. But yeah, I mean, the strange thing, you talk about turning up on the day, and Arsenal seem to always find a way, especially when it comes to cups, as a women's team collectively, to be able to win, even if they were the underdogs, even if everything was against them. And we were that team. You know, when we beat Chelsea in the FA Cup at Wembley, I mean, Chelsea were flying at the time. Arsenal, we were such a disjointed team off the pitch, on the pitch, manager, everything was kind of, it was ugly. It was really ugly. You know, at the time, Pedro kept changing the team in the league, and we got to the cup final, and he just went, he ended up dropping some of the kids, or not playing some of the kids, and just going, I'm just going to put every experienced player on the pitch that he had, within his thing, and was like, let's hope this experience, outplays or outweighs, this Chelsea team. And Dan Carter's goal, I mean, it was a worldie, absolute worldie off the left-hand side, cuts in and bends in the top corner. And I don't know where she was running. I wanted to beat her up. She ran off somewhere. I'm like, mate, I don't want to be chasing you. I'm already tired. Like, only 10 minutes in or whatever. But that was probably my most memorable FA Cup game, just because it was at Wembley. Yeah. And it was the ultimate. It was the dream of walking the steps and, looking down at the fans and lifting the FA Cup. But as I say, the only downfall about it was in an Arsenal shirt. Against the team I support, Chelsea. So it was but it was nice. We had a nice after party.
Do you know what? I just remembered a story as well. But I was going to say that must have felt even better. Considering you said it was a difficult time for the team to actually get there to a final, win it, and walk down the Wembley steps and everything.
It did, but what's frustrating is that on paper, like the team we had at Arsenal, I mean, unbelievable players. Like, I mean, Kim Little, you had Vicky Desada, you had Natalia, you had Dan Carter, Jordan Nobbs, Alex Scott, Kelly Smith. I'm trying to think, there was Leah Williamson. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. What's this Josie, the German centre-half.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even think off the top of my head. Katie McKay was there, Emma Mitchell and Emma Byrne. So what I'm saying is that Rachel Yankee was still there. I'm just trying to, Van der Donk. So that we had like an unbelievable team on paper, but there was there's just something that's not right. I mean, I have my opinions on what I felt wasn't right, but obviously like something wasn't right, and we just was so inconsistent throughout the league, which was frustrating because on paper we should have been doing a lot better. And when you have these one-off games and you can all pull together and you can all be friends on that one day and want to fight for each other to win something. That was the only frustrating thing I took from it. I was like, why couldn't we do this every week? You know what I mean? It's like we turn up in an FA Cup final and we can all fight for each other. Yeah. But week to week we can't do it. And that was just one thing that is just, it was very frustrating. But obviously, as I say, winning the FA Cup at Wembley was the ultimate. But yeah.
I was just going to say, I remember the story, and Leanne Sanderson might not thank me for this, but she was my roommate, and it was, I think it was one of the cup finals, and it was on a morning, went down to breakfast, and she goes, sis, I think I've had a reaction to the prawns.
Oh yeah,
from the night before. Do you remember? Right, and her eyes were like all swollen and puffy and everything. And I was just trying to be a good kind of roommate and be like, don't worry about it. Like,
you look alright.
You look fine. She was like, the game's televised and everything. My eyes comes down to breakfast. Can you imagine? Emma Byrne, Luds, Kira, Grant, all these guys, Alex Scott.
Was that the one at Loftus Road?
Yeah, everyone is there. And Leanne's like, guys, is my eyes bad? And they're all like, no, you're fine. Don't worry. Honestly, it was like blown up where we were just like, don't worry, Leanne, just go out and play, enjoy the game. But honestly, it was hysterical. After the game, we was all just laughing,
cracking up
together. To be fair, she took it like a champ.
It's funny because the first thing she said to me, when you walk out on the pitch before the game and you're walking, obviously I was with Sharon, and obviously because we're all mates. And she come up to me and the first thing was like, look at my reaction to the prawns. So she wanted me to before I said anything, she wanted to say it was the prawns. But yeah, that was a funny one. Have you had you've never played for an underdog team? To have an underdog story, have you? Aston Villa, when you were there, maybe? Did you have an underdog?
I know, well, Aston Villa, obviously. Every game was the underdog. Every game was the underdog, so yeah. So yeah, that was trying. Even when I played in America for Sky Blue, we was somewhat an underdog team compared to some of the other rosters, and because of the season, the way our season started. So, I just remember it was a bit of we had trauma because of losing matches and everything that was going on in terms of between us and a coach and all this stuff. But somehow it pulled us together.
Goes
really
one way or the
tight.
Other, right? Goes one way or the other.
Yeah, it goes one way or the other. You either fall apart or you just get everything together. And that season we won the championship, but honestly, we were literally it was like therapy. Every week it was like therapy. Really? Honestly, it was so up and down. It was a proper roller coaster.
Blue
yeah,
Unbelievable. Yeah, I can't think. I mean, apart from as I mentioned my story about Everton, we were underdogs when we beat Arsenal. But Neat, before we do a quick fire and some fans questions, do you think the FA Cup still inspires the next generation? Is it still seen like that within the women's game? Do you know what I mean? I know for us growing up, like, it was the pinnacle. It was like, yeah, we want to play an FA Cup fan. Do you think kids are still inspired by it?
I do think so.
Spoken about enough, do you think?
I think it could be spoken about a bit more. The women's, at least, still can get a bit more visibility, a bit more kind of like promotion and everything, review. But in terms of in general, I do think it does, because when you look at the teams that have progressed even into the last round, the likes of Rugby, Borough, Portsmouth, Sunderland, all these clubs, it's an opportunity for them to play clubs who are in the top division of WSL and actually know, okay, what is that level? Where do I want to get to individually?
Yeah, because I was a bit surprised that there wasn't really much shown. We show Sky and BBC show a lot of the women's games, WSL games, and I thought it was a real opportunity to kind of showcase the women's game a little bit more. And I know BBC are showing the next round of the FA Cup. But I thought it was an opportunity to show, some of the games and really give it a little bit. And I know BBC did show the Liverpool or Rugby Borough Liverpool, but not enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we could get a few more of those games, more mainstream, with more eyes on them, it definitely has the appeal and would have the outreach to grassroots.
That's what I mean.
In particular, more grassroots teams to go, you know what, I play at my local club. I want to be rugby, reaching an FA Cup 4th round or whatever. So I think there's work to do there. But in terms of the stories, the storytelling in individuals and clubs' journeys, I think that's always really powerful. It's really exciting. It allows, young players especially to sort of dream and think big and feel like anything is possible. These are opportunities within the cup to do something, even if your season is going horribly wrong in your own division, to win something potentially, or get to a stage that you put your club on the map and also place them somewhere within history as a building block, I think is really special.
It also changes, doesn't it? When you talk about those grassroots teams, they probably train once or twice a week. They come from work and whatever, and they've got to do that. But in the build up to a big FA Cup game, they would have probably put a few more hours in. There would have been a few more feeling like a professional for that week, in terms of maybe the way they ate, maybe the way they recovered, maybe some of the detail they got. I remember, and I'm going all the way back, Neats, to when I first started playing at Chelsea. I think I was 14 or 15. Back then you could play first team football, and Chelsea were at the time it was the Premier League, so we were one below the Premier League. And we got drawn to Arsenal in the FA Cup. And this was when Marianne Spacey and Yankee and everyone played. So I'm talking like big Sean Williams, all of those type of players. Mate, we got absolutely tonked. I think it was about 11-0. 11-0. I think Marianne Spacey scored 5. I was just like, but our preparation for that, we went from training once on a Friday. I think that we fitted 3 training sessions in just to try and compete with them. I mean, it didn't help. It's probably really fatigued going into the game. But yeah, it does. It gives you kind of that little bit extra in the build up to kind of a big FA Cup fixture. So yeah, you're right. I think a little bit more needs to be done in that. But again, the FA Cup's so special to us. But Neat, we're going to move on to predictions, our favourite part of the podcast with our Sky Bet. No, I'm joking. Predictions for the weekend. We've got Man United, Crystal Palace. I'm going to go Man United.
Man United.
Arsenal, Spurs. I'm going to go Arsenal. That's a bit an easy one.
Arsenal.
Chelsea, Everton. Oh, another thing. They're at home. I'm going to go Chelsea.
I'm going to go Chelsea as well.
West Ham against Brighton. This is a difficult one. I'm going to go... Brighton have had a really bad run of games. I'm going to go West Ham.
I'm going to go Brighton. I think they got to turn something around.
Leicester, Aston Villa. I'm going to go...
This is tight as well.
Draw.
I've
never said a draw in this.
I'm going to go Villa.
Manchester City, Liverpool. Oh, this is a difficult one. I'm going to go Manchester City.
I'm going to go Manchester City as well. There's
our predictions, guys. Put your 50p accumulator on. See what you can come back. Right, Neat, we've got a couple of questions. _Benny23. Who will win the FA Cup?
Who will win it? Oh, this is a good one.
To say. It's a bit early when we're near the semi-finals.
Yeah, this is a bit way early to say. I don't know.
Who will win the FA Cup? I'm going to say Chelsea.
You're going to say Chelsea, are you?
Of course I am, Nate.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
It's on the tip of your tongue too, I can see it.
I feel like I'm going to go Arsenal.
Okay. Good shout.
I think they need to win something.
Are they going to beat Chelsea in the final then?
They have to. They
Okay,
need to get a trophy in their cabinet.
Let's hope after the draw.
I think the league is pretty much tied up to some degree. So
yeah, I would agree. KT Girl 1998. If you could play now, which league and team would you want to join? Again, I'm good. Pretty easy. WSL, Chelsea.
Oh, do you know what?
Although I wouldn't mind Barcelona, but WSL and Chelsea.
This is really hard actually, because I'm not even going to give you a straight answer, because really I'm going to say
Barcelona, Wolfsburg,
Barcelona.
Chelsea, Bayern.
No, I would have loved to have played for Barcelona.
Yeah.
Just
that would have suited you. That would have literally
the style, the legacy, the everything. You know, like I just would have. And I'm a bit of a fair weather player, so the weather would help.
Yeah, of course.
As well. But and I would say NWSL only for they do like the fits, you know, before a game where they walk out and they got all their like fashion thing. Like I think it'd just be really fun.
No, I wouldn't. I would
just
hate
like
that.
rock up and do the whole like.
I just want my tracksuit, my team tracksuit. And that
tracksuit
completely suits me. Yeah,
because it's just so different. I think I would enjoy it.
You're too cool. Sometimes they turn on. I'm like, you're going to a football game. Like, what are you doing in heels and like
trying to get a clothing sponsor is what they're trying to do.
Okay, is that what it is? Neat. They were good questions actually.
Really good. Tough ones.
Yeah, they were tough.
Yeah, really.
Tough. There's a few teams that I'd actually like to play for, and as I say, FA Cup, I guess. When you mention Arsenal, it's difficult, right? So
100%.
yeah, I'm just trying to stay with Chelsea and get all my haters to hate me even more. But guys, thanks for your questions. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed our episode, like, subscribe and comment. Also, any topics you'd like us to discuss, feel free to put it into our Instagram page, Boots, Balls and Bras, and we'll follow up on those topics. We'll see you again next week. Anita, thank you very much.